Well, welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to ask you all if you could help me real quick. Let's do an audio check really quickly. Give me a yes in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, let me know if you can hear me. Give me a yes. Mark the Great is in here. How you doing, brother? Good to see you again, man. Karen Dorsey from Gastonia, Georgia. Minister Schultz, Miami, Florida. DJM3333, good to see you. Also, shout out the city you're from. Let me know what city you're from. Also, hit that thumbs up button, smash that like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we go live on this platform. And also, as a reminder, this platform is available on Spotify. So if you'd like to listen to me in your car or with your headphones when you're in the gym, just go to Spotify and look for my name, Boyce Watkins. I do content pretty much every day. So anyway, so Derek from NYC, let me tell you all what was on my mind today. I was reading something that got me thinking about paternity fraud. Now, has anybody, you can probably guess what paternity fraud is. Paternity fraud is when a baby's born and, they say mama's baby, daddy's maybe, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, Kashif, how are you, brother? So basically paternity fraud, I saw some YouTube videos. I saw some Instagram stuff. I saw some TikTok stuff where they were citing paternity fraud statistics that were pretty heavy. They were basically saying things like 30 to 40% of all the babies that are born don't belong to the father, or people from paternity labs saying that 40% were false. And let me just say this: I'm going to start off by just from the jump letting you know that I'm researching this, and I'm not really seeing evidence that the numbers are that big. What I'm seeing here are statistics that basically say that maybe it could be 5 to 10% possibly. I also have seen data that basically says that if you have a case where the paternity is being disputed, where everybody's out here just acting like a hoe, everybody's out here screwing everybody out, that they see, and you don't know, who might have been the person whose seed got to the egg. In those cases, the rates of false pot negatives, or whatever they call it, can be much higher, maybe 17 to 33%. I think that's what they said. They said the median was 26%, but I don't know the exact science behind how they measured this data. And so what I'm really gathering here is that if you're doing normal stuff, if you're messing with normal women, if you're not out here just laying down with just anybody and giving anybody and everybody access to your seed, you're typically not going to have the same problems as the guy who wants to go and try to impregnate a stripper every other weekend. You're not going to have the same issue as the person who doesn't keep track of what they're doing with their body. And I think that it's interesting that we do live in this culture that kind of makes people feel, and women especially, makes them feel that you're empowering yourself by just putting yourself out there like that. I mean, you got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. You got diseases. For men, you have to worry about things like not just diseases, but also getting falsely accused of doing something you didn't do, dealing with crazy people who don't want to let go. There's a lot of problems out there, right? And I think that sort of responsibility in terms of being intelligent about what you do with your body, that's really something I don't even think anybody should have to tell you to do. I don't think it's something people should have to teach you. I think it's or force you into. I think it's something that you'd probably want to do voluntarily. So anyway, as I was reading this, I was reading about paternity fraud, and just to give you a definition, Gloria says, "Can't wait to see you in Atlanta." Yeah, I'm going to be in Atlanta for the All Black National Convention. It's going to be October 20th through the 22nd. The All Black National Convention is the leading gathering of B1 people from around the world. So if you'd like to join us in Atlanta, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. We've gathered over 40 experts from various areas, and they're together for one purpose, one sole purpose, and the purpose is to solve problems in our community. Give me a yes if you think that's what we need. Give me a yes if you agree. What we need in our communities, we need a brain trust. We got so many problems in our community. I'm gonna tell you, just this week, just to tell you about my life, just this week, I had one relative who died from a drug overdose. I had another relative who called and told me that the father of her child was murdered, or well, not murdered. Sorry, let me say it again. He's clinging to life after being shot multiple times, and he also had a drug problem. And what I'm saying to you is that in our community, we got so many issues. And I don't care how many times you go vote for the Democrats or you think Uncle Joe's going to fix it. Ain't nobody going to fix it if you don't fix it. If you don't fix it, nobody's going to fix it. In fact, I give shout out. There's a group down in Florida, I believe, called Dads on Duty. Dads on Duty. They had an issue at a school where there were a lot of fights and the kids kind of getting out of control and acting a fool. Well, guess what Dads on Duty did? These brothers got together and said, we're going to do shifts and we're going to patrol the school as men. We're going to just be at the school and help keep the kids under control. And now they should be getting paid for this. They should be getting a piece of that budget. They should be getting some of that money because fathers matter. Everybody type the word father in the chat. If you believe fathers matter, type the word father in the chat, or dad in the chat, or I agree in the chat, because fathers matter. Black fathers matter. And people, for whatever reason, they lied to you and told you that these kids don't need a daddy. And you know what happened? Check this out. Y'all need to go look it up. Look up the group. The group is called Dads on Duty. And the Dads on Duty group literally went to that school, and guess what happened? Ta-da! The kids were well behaved. Oh my God. No more fights? What? You mean the kids were actually going to class? No. You mean fathers matter? You mean having a father, you mean having a masculine presence around a child impacts the child's behavior? Oh, Lord, whoever discovered this. I mean, this is fascinating. We thought fathers didn't matter. We thought mamas could grow penises. We thought women could just generate enough testosterone to emulate what a man does. You better get out of here with that crazy stuff. All that liberal nonsense. I'm not saying I'm a liberal or conservative. I'm just a black man. I'm just trying to be a human being. I ain't trying to fit into somebody's box. But how many of y'all already knew that having dad around does make a difference? Men matter. Fathers matter. And let me tell you about this. And I want y'all to go look it up. I want you to look it up because the group is called Dads on Duty. I saw it on Instagram. Tell me, I need to understand why in that school these fathers ain't getting a piece of that budget. Let's Google this real quick. We're talking about paternity fraud, but we're talking about dads. And we're talking about why black men matter, why fathers matter. So let's Google something real quick. Let's look at the average, let's see, average cost per public school in the budget. Let's see. The average cost per public school, let's just pick Illinois. The per pupil, $16,000 per year per pupil in Illinois. So that means if you got a school with 1,000 kids, that's a $16 million budget. Do y'all understand where I'm going with this? I'm talking about the money. Seriously. So these dads that are going to this school and doing the job that those white ladies in the classroom can't do, they'll hire the white female to go and monitor these black boys, making them feel like prison inmates. The boy is going crazy because he's dominated by nothing but feminine energy all day long. He's at home with his mama and maybe his mama and his sisters. That's driving him crazy. Then he goes to school with a white lady at the front of the classroom from the suburbs who keeps telling him to sit down and shut up. That's driving him crazy. He wants to be around men. Why is it that we let people talk us out of this? Why we let people talk us out of reality? Why y'all let massa make you stupid? I need to understand that. To me, this is common sense. Anybody who had a father knows that when your daddy gave you that look, you knew to calm your butt down. Anybody who had a father knew that the house is not the same without the father. One day, my father was a cop, and when he was my father that raised me, not my biological father. My biological father went to prison. My father that raised me put people in prison, and that my father that raised me, when he went to go to the police academy, he was gone for like 6 weeks. And during that 6 weeks, my mother said the household kind of fell apart. She said it was very difficult managing me and managing that household without my father in that house. So I just want to give a shout out to Dads on Duty. And I hope everybody listening will go Google this group. I think that they deserve support. But here's the thing. If anybody from that group is watching this video, I need you to go to the next PTA meeting and say, yeah, we're happy to provide a service that you can't provide. We're happy to do a job you can't do. We don't mind doing that, but you're going to have to break us off a little something. Instead of making money off our kids and cutting us out of the deal, give me a yes if you agree. Give me a yes if you understand. Instead of cutting us out of the deal, you're going to have to give us a piece of that paper. You're going to have to give us a piece of that money too. If you're spending $6, $10, $15, $20 million per school just so you can not educate kids, just so you can fail them, you're spending millions of dollars a year just so you can destroy their lives and ruin their futures and send them out as little baby white supremacists who are not prepared to succeed. We need a piece of that money too. I think those men should be in the budget. I think, and in fact, I think every other school out here that wants to understand what's wrong with your black boys, your problem is that you don't have enough black men around them. That's your biggest problem. I spoke at a school, and I know we're talking about this paternity fraud thing, and we're going to get back to that. I promise you. Just be patient with me. I spoke at a school in Syracuse, and the school was mostly black and brown, a few Hispanic kids, mostly black kids. All the teachers were white. Every single teacher was white. And I literally went to this school, and I sat down with all these white teachers, and these white teachers, there's very nice women, very nice white women. They saw me go into a classroom full of all their kids that supposedly had learning disorders, all their kids that had behavioral disorders. And they saw me go in that room and regulate those children just like that. They saw me regulate those little boys just like that. And they were stunned. They didn't understand how that was going on. They were like, "How did you do that? How did you do that?" I said, "Well, because I'm a man, it's easy. I know how to speak to little boys, especially little black boys." And the lady said, "Well, in case you haven't noticed, Dr. Watkins, we're all white female." And I said, "Yeah, I noticed that." And she said, "What was your impression of our school?" And I said, my impression of your school, to be honest with you, is I said I might hurt your feelings, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. My impression is that the school was a mixture between a penitentiary and an insane asylum. I said I would be depressed if I had to go to school in this building every day. And I remember, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget these white female teachers who were trying to do the right thing, asking me what they need to do to manage their black boys. And I said, some of what you need to do is stuff you are not qualified to do. If I needed to manage a bunch of little blonde haired, blue eyed white girls, I would probably need your help. I would probably not think that I could just teach them how to be a blonde haired, blue eyed white girl by myself. I would probably need your support or your backup or something from you. Right. So effectively, I think fathers matter. I know fathers matter. We know fathers matter. And I encourage you to understand this. So going back to this issue of paternity fraud, it turns out that paternity fraud is not as common as people are saying on TikTok and the internet. Paternity fraud is, let me just tell you the truth, it's probably more likely if you are sleeping around with just any Tom, Dick, and Harry that walks by. Paternity fraud is more likely if you're dealing with people of low ethical character. Most women typically are not going to lie about who the daddy is. Don't get me wrong. Women do lie. There are women who lie. There are, when I've seen married women sleeping with men on the side, all these things do happen for sure. However, generally speaking, if you are dealing with a normal situation that's somewhat manageable, you're not going to have a paternity fraud issue. However, just in case, my suggestion to any young man or older man who has a child is I would get that paternity test just to be sure, because you're talking about a lot of money. And let me just tell you this: paternity fraud is not penalized; it's not punished as a criminal offense, even though it is. That she could lie to you and pretend and manipulate you, and it's very, very hard to file criminal charges. You could typically take it to civil court, get your money back, but to me, that's not enough. I think that there should be criminal charges because that is a form of theft. You're taking something that does not belong to you. And also my thought to women is I think it's extremely important to think carefully. Any woman who loves her kids is going to think extremely carefully about who she lets into her body. I have seen so many children have their heart broken because their daddy was garbage. And they're looking at their mother thinking, why did you choose to get impregnated by a piece of garbage? That one guy who could have been more reliable, who could have been a great dad. You didn't pick him because he didn't seem fly enough and have enough swag and didn't wear alligator shoes and didn't say the right thing to you when you got together and went out on a date. He didn't smell good with the sexy cologne or whatever. So literally my whole future has been altered because you wanted to be with the man who had a lot of swag. Like that's just so crazy to me. That's something very basic. Or the man who played hard to get, or the man who was a little cuter than the other guy. I just really think that's fascinating. That to me is the ultimate butterfly effect, where literally a child's whole life, their whole reality, their experiences over the next 50 years have been altered because their mother thought one guy was too much of a nerd and too boring, and the other guy was interesting and exciting. But the interesting, exciting guy broke your heart, abandoned your child, didn't provide resources, made your child live a life where they feel abandoned, hurt, lonely, sad, and they go through life looking for love in all the wrong places because you did not provide that kid with a father who actually cares about them enough to be there for them on a consistent basis. I just really think this is something where we don't think carefully enough about it. Obviously, it's a wealth conversation too. I think there's nothing wrong with a woman having certain expectations and standards of the types of men that she would even sleep with. I think economics should be part of it, but that can't be enough. I think integrity and character has to be a big part of it as well. What are you made of? What kind of man are you? I was talking to my brother the other day, and I said, "It's interesting. Think about this. You know, you're 40, and you are at home with a wife and kids. Even though you're around millionaires, you made a ton of money." I said, "Think about this." I said, "Why are you at home dealing with your wife and kids when you could be out in the street smoking weed, drinking liquor, and having hoes?" And I said, "Where do you think we got that from?" He said, "We got it from our father." Because we saw our father spend time with our mother. We saw our father committed to our mother. We saw our father committed to a family. So typically, if you're looking to make a decision about what type of man you want to build with, look at the man that he learned from. If he did not learn from a man who was a builder himself, you have to find evidence that he's actually going to change the trajectory, because marathon runners are different from sprinters. Tell me if you get what I'm saying. Sometimes you're in a relationship with a sprinter and you're trying to run a marathon with a sprinter, and that's just not going to work. If you the world championships are happening now. Sha'Carri Richardson is the fastest woman on the planet. Shout out to Sha'Carri. But if you ask Sha'Carri Richardson to run a marathon, she would run extremely fast for the first 100 meters, maybe be able to run for 200, perhaps even 300 or 400 meters. But after a quarter mile, she would run out of gas. Sha'Carri Richardson is not the kind of runner you would run with if you're trying to run a marathon. Sha'Carri is a sprinter. So in relationships, the analogy applies too. There are some people who are relationship sprinters. They're emotional sprinters. They can go really hard, really fast, be really exciting for about 6 months. They can be really awesome to be around. Sex is great, have a lot of fun, really good times for maybe 9 months to a year. Right. But after about a year, they run out of gas. After a year and a half, they start to see problems. After 2 years, they say, "I can't take it no more." Why? Well, because their relationships are like that piece of gum you put in your mouth that tastes really sweet and juicy, and then it runs out of sugar, and then you spit it out and you get another piece of gum. Nobody ever taught them how to keep the gum in their mouth for more than a few minutes. So they're just going through life, chewing the gum until the sugar runs out, spitting it out, and saying, "I had to spit that gum out because it tasted terrible. Why would I chew on the gum with no sugar when I could have the gum that's fresh and new?" And that's largely due to upbringing. If I grew up and never saw anybody really have a relationship longer than a couple of years, then how am I going to know what it takes to do a 30-year, 40-year jaunt with the same person? That's going to seem terrible. That's going to seem boring. You know, when I went with my wife is a marathon runner. And when my wife got me running and she took me out to run a marathon, my first thought was, why in the hell would somebody put themselves through that much torture? Why would you be running a marathon when you could be chilling and eating a banana split? Why would I be trudging through 26.2 miles when half a mile is good enough? Running 1 mile is pretty impressive. Why the hell would I go through 26.2 miles when I could be at home in the bed watching Netflix? Why would I be up at 7 o'clock in the morning on an ice cold day when I could be warm and in the bed? That was my thinking. That's because I had nobody in my family who'd ever run a marathon before. It made no sense to me. And then when I got around the culture and I understood why runners run, why they keep going, why they run through the injury, I started experiencing the rewards of finishing that big long race. Well, then that started shifting who I am. That started changing my cultural DNA. So I became a different person because of that. Well, I think in relationships, it's really the same thing. For some people, they are blessed to have seen somebody, a grandparent or a parent, march their way through 40, 50 years of consistency in a relationship. They've seen their mother and father submitting to each other. People don't like the word submit, but I think in marriage you do submit. They've seen them dealing with adversity. They've seen them have conflict without blowing up the whole building. They've seen them stick with each other through thick and thin, richer for poor, in sickness and in health. They've seen all of that. And they take pride in that. They see that as the building of an institution. They see that the way a runner sees a marathon. They see that as a consistent push where it's not comfortable all the time, but you're looking for the reward of saying, "I did that. I finished that. I completed that." They're not looking to feel good every month. A marathon runner that expects to feel good the entire 26 miles is never going to run any marathons, because running marathons does not always feel good. You get to feel good at the end when you finish. You get to feel good about your sense of accomplishment. You get to feel good because you've got a perfect body and you're in wonderful shape because you put in the work. But you don't feel good while you're running the race. So the same thing is true when it comes to relationships. I think there are people who understand that things like marriage don't always feel good every day. It ain't a big party every day. It's not always complete total happiness every day, but you feel good. Why do you feel good? You feel good because you got that consistency of having the same person next to you. Why do you feel good? Well, you feel good because you built an institution that provides security economically, spiritually, and otherwise for your children. You feel good because you could get to the end of that 40 years and say, I did that. That I'm built that way. That's what I am. That's what I represent. And if that's not part of your culture, if you have not ever been sort of trained to think that way, then it's not going to make any sense to you. It's going to be the same way I felt when I sat there and watched people run 26 miles. I said, why in the hell would you do that when you could be chilling? Seriously, a mile is good enough. So a lot of people go into relationships the same way. And a lot of people, they look at the high and the excitement of a wedding, and they're thinking that marriage is the wedding. They're like, oh, the wedding, I'm gonna have this dress, so I'm gonna be fly with my frat. I'm gonna look good. I'm gonna wear my tux. I'm gonna be flexing for the gram. And I'm like, that's so fascinating because you're running the first 100 yards of a marathon and you acting like you done completed the race. like, seriously, when I'm thinking about how to be married long term, I'm thinking, let me go talk to somebody who's actually been married 30, 40 years and ask them how they did it. I'm not going to go talk to the internet. I'm not going to listen to Instagram, because Instagram is full, unfortunately, with a lot of lonely, unhappy, unhealthy, toxic people who tell you a bunch of BS about stupid standards that if you maintain those standards that they ask you to maintain, you're going to be single until the day you die. You will die alone. Kevin Samuels used that term, but unfortunately, Kevin Samuels also died alone. So it's not just the women that can die alone, it's the men too. So anyway, let me go back. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you have not done that yet. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. I have a new book out. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can feel free to take a look. It's at my website, boycewatkins.com. The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power is a basic template any family or any individual can follow that will make you infinitely powerful when it comes to economics. This is based on economic theory, and I've been teaching finance to college students since 1993. So I know what I'm talking about, and I also have studied the Black community extensively. I wrote this book for Black people, even though non-Black people are buying it too, because these rules are very, very powerful. So feel free to go take a look. It's an Amazon bestseller, and you can find it at my website, boycewatkins.com, along with lots of other free resources like our $5 a day investing plan in the Black Business School, our training on how to make money without working, our financial flashcards for children. Just feel free to go to boycewatkins.com. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. So earlier we were talking about paternity fraud. And one of the things I would say about paternity fraud in terms of people lying about paternity is it doesn't seem, based on the data I have seen, it doesn't seem to happen as often as people say. The internet and TikTok and everything else seems to be kind of lying to you a little bit. It's kind of creating this fear mongering. I saw this lady, a random lady who said that her friend told her it was 40%. I would be curious to see that study done in a scientific way. I don't know. I really would find a hard time believing that it's as high as 40%. The numbers I have seen online when I've searched around have been pretty low. That generally speaking, for most people, it's maybe less than 5%. But for people that have a reason to contest paternity, I'm talking about people, maybe you're sleeping with a stripper who sleeps with men to make money, or maybe you're sleeping with somebody who has some sort of addiction that causes them to sleep around a lot. Then in those situations, or you're just not sure because neither one of you had much of an interest in being with each other, then in those cases, they said the number can actually rise from 16 to 33%. And even then, they did give a precise number. They said the median is 26.5%. So theoretically, in the worst case scenario, it could be as high as 25% now, or 26%. Now, one thing that's true too is I think that generally speaking, because paternity is such a serious thing for yourself, for the child, for your finances, I would just, as a general rule, want to get a paternity test. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't get one just in case, just because, just to be sure. And if somebody doesn't like that, or somebody's tripping, like, how you going to ask me to do a paternity test? I'm sorry. If you ain't got nothing to hide, then why are you worried about it? Why don't we go ahead and just get this thing over, and then you could prove to me where I was wrong. And because I think that for those men that do get hit with, with that paternity fraud, that's pretty massive. It's devastating both to him and to the child, because this child grows up believing that this person is their father, and then they find out when they're 15 or 20 that that's not my dad. I mean, you want to talk about a lifetime therapy bill? You want to talk about being in therapy for the next 20 years? That's horrible. And it's even worse when the father just lets go of his responsibility to the kid. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Call me what you want to, but if I was lied to in that situation, which I wouldn't be, I've never ever. When I was young, I didn't do that stupid stuff. I wasn't trying to just go lay down with any big butt and a smile. Even when tons of women were chasing after me or whatever, I pick my women carefully, because you got to pick who's around you carefully. You can't be running around with just anybody. But if I was stuck in that situation and there was a child that was raised believing that I was their dad, I would never, ever, 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 ever let anybody tell them otherwise. Even if the paternity test came back weird, I would talk to the mother and I'd say, look, I'm willing to keep up the charade if you want to. Or we could just say, let's tell him together, but let him know I'm here. Because kids didn't do anything wrong. Kids were not the ones out hoeing, and being irresponsible. The kids were not the ones out picking poorly in their relationships. The children are just here, and kids deserve love. And it bothers me. I saw a case like that where a poor guy had been lied to for 20 years. In fact, he went to jail for child support. That's how crazy it was. He literally did 5 years in jail because he didn't pay his child support, and the kid wasn't his. And he had to go tell the kid, I'm sorry, I'm not your father. And I would have just said, if I've been your dad this whole time, let's just keep it going. I maybe I'll tell you we can go look for your father, but I'm here for you. And I don't understand why people think that's weird. I don't get it. I think it's crazy that people don't care about kids. I think fathers, when I see fathers not really caring about their own kids or caring about kids, period, I think that's weird. Or saying that it's stupid to date a woman that has kids. I married a woman with kids, and I'm very happy. I love those kids. I love raising and mentoring Black children. I don't understand a culture where people just see kids as a nuisance. And maybe it's because I see I see one day when I get older, they're going to be the ones in power, and they're going to remember how you treated them. They're going to remember if you ignored and neglected them, or if you spent time with them. And so you invest in people. Your biggest investments in life are not financial. Your biggest investments in life are people. Like I love openly telling the story about how my father took care of me. He adopted me when I was 3. He didn't have to do it. He was probably he would have been called a simp because he married my mother and he adopted me. He did not have to do that. And he raised me. And when he got older, I was more than happy to literally use all my money to give him whatever he wanted. And I had money, believe me, I'm not a poor man. So I got, you want a new truck? Okay, I got it. Let's get that with cash. You want to pay the house off? Okay, let's make that happen. What else you need? You want to go on a trip? Oh yeah, that trip's going to be free for you. Why? Well, because you were there for me when my own father was not. You provided for me when nobody else gave a damn about me. You had my back when nobody else did. You defended us when we were vulnerable. When I was a little knucklehead baby with a single mother who was 17, 18 years old, who didn't have a nickel in her pocket, you came through for us like a superhero. You were a goddamn superhero to me. And I really think all the fathers out there, I want to give a shout out to all the fathers out there, all the play dads and the guys who ended up becoming stepdads and everything else. And, I know people out here just talking crazy or whatever about you, but no, like those kids, I think that the most solid thing you can do as a man is come through for a child. Of course, you're supposed to come through for your own kids. That's a given. But it's easy to love your own kids. I mean, that's your seed. That's selfish. It's easy to love your own children. That's easy. But when you can care about children that are abandoned out here, all these Black kids that get their feelings hurt, where their parents are on drugs, parents in jail, parents don't care, and you come through for a kid like that, I want to give a shout out to all those parents, because I just think you are the heroes of the Black community, and I applaud you to the nth degree. And I just really I hate the fact that we have this stupid movement on the internet of men who think that that's the type of simp. And no, you're the simp. Just take your ass, go back to your mama's basement, smoke your weed, drink your liquor, and play Xbox in your drawers all day, and let the real men go out here and save the community. Period. And, so shout out to the real men out here. Most of us can attribute our success to some real man we ran into. Some of the real men I've run into who mentored me through the years are people like Dr. Claude Anderson and others, and Dr. George C. Frazier, a guy named oh my gosh, Benton, W.C. Benton at Ohio State. He's on the faculty there. He got me through my PhD program. He's a soldier. He's actually a Marine, and he taught me how to fight those sons of bitches when they were trying to stop me from finishing my doctoral work. I had a real battle with racism in my PhD program at Ohio State. He got me through that battle, and so it's those solid men out here that really clear the path for the next generation. And unfortunately, you have a history where they have trained your community to create a breed of men who are weak, who are selfish, who don't care about anything but themselves. And many of those men are still around to this day. So anyway, that's all I got to say on that. That's where I stand on that. And that ain't changing, period. All right. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time. Also, if you'd like to get profit alerts, I tell you guys about what stocks I'm buying periodically. Feel free to follow my Telegram channel. I have a Black Investors channel on Telegram. You can go to drboycetelegram.com if you'd like to take a look at that. Also, if you'd like to get copies of all of my books, you can just go to boycewatkins.com. And my kids, again, those kids that people think are a waste of time. Well, my kids help me run my e-commerce store, so they actually ship my books out for me. So if you want an autographed copy of any of my books, just go to boycewatkins.com. You can find it there, and also you can find information on all the other stuff. The All Black National Convention. You can find information about the stock options trading camp that we're doing right now, as well as some other things we have going on. So God bless you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. And I'll check back in with you guys a little bit later. Take care now. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.